Welcome to the Strain Podcast, a Southgate Media Group production, where we talk all about Guillermo del Toro's horror fantasy series, The Strain. We are currently covering the series' 4th season and final season on FX. I'm your host, Blair Nightgraves, the executive producer and host of Professional Geek Podcast, and with me today is my co-host, Kyle Tremblay. You can find us on Twitter at BlairLovesTV and at KyleLovesTV, and you can follow this podcast Twitter handle at The Strain Pod. Oh my gosh, Kyle, hi, how are you doing?
Blair, we're back from the nuclear winter that was our podcast off season that went on interminably without doing any kind of podcast. I got some suggestions. I got some ideas. I'm coming in hot with ideas. Okay,
hot takes.
Hot takes. Well, maybe. So you know how like some books have subtitles, it's like the title and then a colon and then a subtitle. Mm-hmm. I feel like in its final season, The Strain needs a subtitle. Oh. Like, it can't just be The Strain Season 4, so I got a few to run by you.
Okay.
The Strain Season 4, The Wigs of Winter. The Strain Season 4, Zaknarok. Which, based on this premiere, is actually the one they went with.
Yeah.
And then the final one, The Strain Season 4, please, for the love of God, don't show any more of F and Dutch's relationship. Please, I'm begging you, I would rather see the characters die than kiss again.
I like that one.
They followed that one.
Yes, they did for now.
Dutch doesn't exist anymore.
Wait, does she not exist anymore? No.
No, she's got to be on the show. I'm just saying it was kind of weird that, like, in the sort of reintroduction of this world and these characters, they didn't bother to even include her.
Yeah, she was at SDCC this week in San Diego Comic-Con.
No, I'm sure she's still on the show. No, I just thought it was a weird choice.
No, I thought it was a weird choice, too, to introduce a woman who, from afar, looks like Dutch until she takes her hair down, and it is, in fact, not Dutch.
Have we met that woman?
No, Charlotte is new.
Okay.
Fett's lady friend is very much new.
It's like The Strain has a quota for how many women can be on screen in an episode and not be killed. And it's like, well, we're introducing this new woman. We need to add more women to the cast. But no, we can't have Dutch in this episode. That's too many. Right.
Although, maybe a pseudo-spoiler alert, I just looked at IMDb, and she is credited in less episodes than all of the men.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds right.
By almost 10. And I think it's a 10-episode season.
Well, so they really did go with my suggestion for that final one. They have named it Zaknarok is this season.
Zaknarok.
Because I can guarantee you Zak is in every freaking episode. If not practically, then he is haunting every episode. The specter of Zak is haunting every episode this season.
Well, he did destroy New York City, so.
Yeah, no, he did. He destroyed New York City, and then he destroyed my will to live.
And your will to watch television, perhaps?
Yeah, I don't even watch TV anymore, except for this show to do this podcast. And Game of Thrones, which, of course, is on at the same time as this show.
Right. You know, we just need to come up front and say, like, that is proof in the pudding that FX did not want The Strain to go on. Near, far, wherever it are.
Near, just like the famous saying goes, near, far, wherever it are.
Wherever it are. They put it up against Game of Thrones Season 7, which is the most anticipated season of television, I think, in the history of television ever.
Yeah. It's like... The Strain is, to FX, like a faceless soldier on Game of Thrones. It's like a member of the Frey army and just got poisoned by FX with this time slot. Like, this is... By the way, just a quick pitch for the podcast. Why aren't we talking about Game of Thrones?
We should.
Is it too we're 3 seasons in. Is it too late to pivot?
I mean, we do frequently bring up Game of Thrones on this podcast.
I know, it's basically a Game of Thrones podcast at this point. And oh boy, is it going to become one this season.
Oh yes. Okay, but think about it. So initially FX put up The Strain against The Walking Dead thinking that it might have a chance against the Juggernaut.
Yeah.
And then lo and behold, that didn't work out so well for them. So then they give it its own time slot where it's not really actually competing with anything, just to see, and it's still nobody's watching The Strain. except for you, our loyal listeners who we love.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then now Game of Thrones.
Yes. The Strain should be on Saturday nights at like 10.
If it were an NBC show, that would have happened in season 1.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the Strain feels like a good show for like, I just got home from being out on Saturday night and there's nothing on. Let's go. It's like that railroad show on AMC a few years back. Like The Strain is one of those. It's not a Sunday night at 10 show.
No, it's not. But they gave it valiant effort.
They really did try.
So Kyle, today you and I are going to be discussing season 4, episode 1, titled "The Worm Turns."
Oh my
which
gosh.
was written by Carlton Cuse, the showrunner, and Chuck Hogan, one of the writers of the books. He's the co-writer of the book series with Guillermo del Toro, who is, as far as I can tell, no longer associated with this show at all.
He's gonna personally delete that one from his IMDb.
Yeah. I have a cool little update though. Over the summer, I got the opportunity to go see At Home with Monsters, which is the Guillermo del Toro exhibit that was at the Minneapolis Institute of Art.
Okay.
And there was a lot of really cool The Strain sculptures and prototype art and props and things like that. So I'm going to put those up on Twitter. I was holstering that. I'm going to put those up on the Strain podcast Twitter handle, so everybody should look for that later this week. But that was really, really cool to sort of see where he was going when he came up with the ideas. And some of them are even drawings from when he was writing the books. So
the Strain continues to be much better in concept than in execution.
Yes, well, that was one of the interesting things was they had a bunch of, because every room was themed. And in every themed room, there were videos playing that were just clips from his movies, and there was always a clip of the Strain in all of that, but it was always just the visually cool stuff. Like there were other clips that were like emotional tuggers, but nothing.
Yeah, no, this is we're gonna leave the writing for other projects that he's been on.
Yes, yes. So it was very, very funny. But I digress. We are discussing season 4, episode 1, "The Worm Turns."
The worm. I can't believe it's called that.
Right, I can't either. And I don't think at the beginning they even said how much time had passed, did they? I mean, it was clearly a time jump from
clearly.
Off, but
and F's in like a different city.
Is he? Oh, he's in Philadelphia.
He's in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Do we? They said at some point how much time had passed, right? Is it like 3 months?
Something like, I mean, Zach certainly grew a lot for that.
Yeah, well, for Zach, 6 years has passed. But
yes.
For the rest of us. Yeah. Oh, Blair, I can't. Blair, this was a bad episode of television.
It really, I mean, were we expecting anything else? I mean, here's the thing.
You know what? I was, because the Strain, the MO for the Strain is to start strong. All 3 seasons so far have started relatively strong. Remember that pilot episode on the plane? How good that was? Like, the Strain tends to start strong and then gradually fall apart over the course of a season. That is what all 3 seasons have done to this point. They are, to their credit, trying something new this season, which is immediately falling apart. They have fallen apart instantly from the jump. From almost the first scenes of this episode, this was a bad episode.
I think I mostly agree with you. I want to hear your thoughts, but I think there's a possibility that I liked it maybe a little bit more than you did.
I mean, I didn't hate. Like, the Strain has a wide range of quality that goes much lower than this. Like, this wasn't the worst episode of The Strain by any measure. It was just boring. It was just a boring episode. And I think what they were trying to do, I understand, which is kind of literally reset the world now, and establish this new Strigoi-dominated society. And that's a fairly cool idea. Like, I'm on board with that.
The partnership?
The partnership, which the first thing I thought of being a video game nerd is XCOM 2. There were scenes from this episode that were exactly like the opening cinematic of XCOM 2, where the aliens invade Earth and win and set up it's like it's like the Alliance. It's not called that, but something along those lines, where they have their own news network that promotes it. Like, it is note for note identical. But that is not I'm not saying that XCOM 2 invented that concept by any means. Like, that is, I'm thinking of like Childhood's End by Arthur C. Clarke, is like this concept of invaders win. They win the invasion, and they set up a quote-unquote partnership with humanity that is actually just part of their invasion tactic. Like, that idea is well-trodden ground, but that I'm not criticizing it for that. That's fine. It's just in order for a quote-unquote slow episode to work like this, where there's very little action, there's very little sort of happening, you have to be invested in the characters. And there are too many characters on this show that are just not worth investing in. And that ship has sailed. And it's really like everyone but Fett is, I would put into that category. Like, who am I? Like, do I really care if F does whatever F's trying to do? No, I don't. I don't hate F as a character, but I don't care about him. Like, he's been the star of this show for a while. I have a pretty good handle on who F is, and I could take or leave him. So it's like all those slow scenes of him being a doctor, and like none of that matters to me. Like, all of that feels like filler to me. And if I cared more about that character, maybe, or if I thought that was a more compelling character, maybe that stuff would land a little more and have some kind of resonance. But it just, to me, is like, I don't. That stuff doesn't matter. Right. So that was my and I mean, that's putting aside the whole Zach issue, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Yeah. So I think in terms of establishing the new order, I was actually having a really good time, even if I didn't really like what they were doing necessarily. I think that it was really well executed for this world you're talking about, where you know, we lose and we've got to, there's like a sort of grumbly resistance, but it's not really a resistance, and like, all that stuff. Like, I think that they laid all the groundwork that they're going to need for the rest of the season in a really effective way. And I also think it was really nice to see F as a lone agent, like actually a lone agent, not just like, I'm gonna be a lone agent, screw you, my friends. Like him actually having to be isolated because he actually is separated from everybody, and he is actually on his own and actually is trying to survive. And for him to be doing good things, because by the end of last season, he was acting kind of crazy, like all the time. So to see him sort of having like chilled out and just like living his life in this new world order was kind of pleasant for me, given how much bad material he was given last season.
To be fair, everyone chilled out by a factor of about 10. Like, Fett was like whispering his lines. Like, Fett, like everyone, the show just, I think like their big note was like, let's just calm down a bit.
Well, when you destroy the world with a nuclear explosion,
I guess everything kind of got out of hand there at the end. Everything got
a little out of hand. But I liked the introduction of Fett again, going on and sort of being this like Mad Max warrior with Quinlan.
Looking for missiles, I guess.
Yeah, well, he's been looking for missiles since before the bomb went off.
Yeah.
And he's off doing his mission, but he's also like fighting rednecks and. Oh my gosh.
Well, Quinlan is like on call, I guess.
Quinlan is just like there at any given time.
Yeah.
But like I wanted to ask you, so we were talking about how this is going to become a Game of Thrones podcast, but this is briefly going to take a detour into True Blood, which I believe you finished, correct?
I did.
Yes.
No, I watched all but the last season. I never watched the full last season.
Well, you watched the part that I'm going to bring up, which is
okay, cool.
When Fett woke up chained to a bed, I got Jason Stackhouse flashbacks.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, when they were like, "There's a bunch of women and they've captured these men," I was like, "Oh no, this is about to become a forced procreation story." Yeah,
this is taking a turn.
Right, which I wouldn't have been surprised. That's the thing is like everything that I've seen happen on the strain, everything that they did to poor Dutch, and all of that, I just thought, oh, okay, this is the world we live in.
Yeah. No, I mean, that wouldn't have shocked me.
Yeah. But, you know, but I think that was, like, a fun, effective way to introduce this. I think his name was Roman, this new Roman guy. And I think it was cool to see, like, Fett both be successful and get knocked down a peg. And I always do like it when ladies are kicking ass and taking names. So, I don't know. Like, I didn't hate I guess all I'm saying is, like, it was a good entree into what we're dealing with now. And it did it about as well as The Strain can. It wasn't spectacular, as you said. Like, every season prior to this has actually been really quality television. But in terms of their opening episodes, but it felt like it there were little hints here and there where it's like, this is going to derail real fast.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I think there were elements of it that were, I mean, I'm not opposed to the show being a little more chilled out, and this was definitely a more chilled out episode. Obviously, as you said, this is not the new normal for the show. It is going to escalate back up. They're sort of starting at a lower point than in previous seasons, probably give themselves some more room, so maybe they don't have to detonate another nuclear warhead.
Hopefully. Well, I mean, they're looking for one, so.
Yeah, no, I guess that's where we're headed to again. I guess my counterpoint to all of that is, I don't know how it's possible to enjoy a show in which the all-powerful being of legend and fear, the Master, has inhabited the body of a 90-year-old and is babysitting a child. Like, the Zach stuff to me is single-handedly bad enough to ruin every episode that it is a part of.
It took you 18 minutes to get to Zach. I just want you to know. Congratulations. Yeah, no, this is a record.
Listen, I valiantly tried to make a point about the rest of this episode, and you rightly pointed out that that's not where my problem is. The problem is with Zach. The problem is with the role that he is playing this season, which is, he's the star of the show. That's the problem. Right, the problem is that there is a lot of Zach. There's just a lot of Zach playing air guitar. There's a lot of Zach killing tigers. There's a lot of Zach just zacking around,
playing with his feeler.
I don't need. There's a Zach love story with the maid. Like, I don't need any of this Zach. I need 100% less Zach on my TV. The fact that this character is somehow alive, somehow still human, is being held under the flimsiest of circumstances, is being pampered for some reason by, again, this all-powerful being that, like, can be anywhere he wants and can, like, rip people in half. Like, the Master is, like, doting on Zach is mind-blowing to me. It is, and I guess he's grooming him to be, like, the next Master or something, is my interpretation. Why? Like, why? Like, what is... Isn't he taking over the world? Why does any of this... Like, why does Zach matter? Like, what makes F on the run on his own in Philadelphia so uniquely qualified that the Master has to hold his son hostage and also, like, treat his son as a little prince? Like... Oh my gosh, the Zach stuff from a plot perspective is such nonsense, and from an execution perspective undermines every last bit of the Master being sinister. Like, he is so unsinister because he's taking care of this child like a babysitter.
You are going to love it when we do our post-mortem where you read the third book.
Yeah, okay.
So I want to say, like, I'm totally there with you. And you know how, like, I always have these moments in the show. Oh, yeah, for everybody who doesn't know, welcome tuning in to season 4. I've read the book and Kyle hasn't.
Yes.
That's our ongoing theme.
Yeah.
And in the books, when he has to kill this tiger, this is an iconic moment for me for the third book. That I really enjoyed in the third book, and they did everything they could to make it a complete catastrophe.
It was a truly horrible scene from top to bottom.
Yeah, in the book, you're following it as the perspective of Zach. You're not following it. I mean, I suppose the scene begins from Zach's perspective in the television show too, but then by the time you get to him doing that, he's like he's like they skipped over the we're gonna teach him how to be cruel, which is what they're trying to do right now to him. They skip over that entirely in the book and just go straight to Zach being cruel, and like instead it's like him like sauntering around trying to like hunt this giant beast that is 3 times his size, and it's like kind of a really upsetting scene because it's like, oh my god, this child who you've had child perspective with before is now a teenager. Because it's supposed to actually jump like 3 years, I think. In the book.
Maybe it jumped 3 years.
Yeah, and
who knows?
I don't know what. I have no idea. But like, and then, but he's this cruel teenage boy who doesn't have any like care for life or anything like that. So, to go to them like trying to slowly teach him that, and then bringing back Kelly in a weird hypnotism way that I'm not really sure we've seen the Master do before. Like, is that a new special power that he has that we just decided he could do? Like, it's not really effective. Like, I would much rather jump into his character already being questioned. And I don't think I'm saying that just as a book reader, but like, that's much more interesting to jump into Zach. I don't want to watch him descend into evil, you know? Like, I just want, if he's gonna be bad, I just want it to be there.
Here's my question. I mean, the Master at this point has his pick of any child in the world. Like, well, okay, bigger question. Sorry. Have they taken over the world or just New York City?
I mean, they were in Philadelphia and...
Yeah, and it was still, so is it like
there.
in England right now? Is it like that? Because there's only one Master. So how is he running? What's his global organization look like?
So, I don't know, because you read this book you read the second book where the whole world gets covered in smog.
Yeah, but that was due to like a simultaneous nuclear meltdown occurring everywhere.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't happen in the show.
Right, but there was some talk like in Fett's storyline about like other nukes being launched. My tentative understanding is that the Master, once he seized control, launched nukes everywhere, but that was only like vaguely referenced.
Right.
I don't like, this is like the meat of the story, which is how the Strigoi took over the world, and they like completely skipped over it. I don't understand. I genuinely don't understand if the Strigoi control the world or just like the northeastern United States. like what is California like right now in the world of the show? What is California like? What is China like? What's Japan like? What's Russia like? What's Africa like? Like, I don't understand what the show wants us to believe about the world the show is occurring in. And like, if the Master did set off nuclear warheads everywhere and like create this nuclear apocalypse, like how is he running I guess he has like other lieutenants, because his organization is so like small and piddly. Like, it's just him and Ikehurst basically, and Kelly.
Yeah. Well, Kelly's dead.
Yeah, Kelly's dead, but like being like,
oh yeah,
it's such a small, or like there's no like chain of command in the Master's organization that we've seen. Is he just controlling like mindless Strigoi hordes I still like the lack of world perspective is something that has hampered the strain since the get-go, and I don't understand where the world is right now or how it got there.
Even with Fett, Charlotte, and Quinlan, they the sky seemed to be clear. Right? Like, the hillbillies didn't seem to be bothered about being outside. Like, they weren't hiding themselves.
Yeah, I think.
I distinctly remember thinking, like, oh, the sky is clear here.
So this is like a New York, like a northeastern U.S. thing. It's like he took the northeastern United States. It's like, because, I think you're right. Like,
but the hillbillies are still in apocalypse gear, which might indicate that, like, that's where his central command is, because he can keep the eternal night there.
Right.
Because the smog is covering the sun. But but he's done enough throughout the world, especially like the urban areas, to like shut down Central Command.
Okay, and then other thing, so the Strigoi now are just like chill, because like they were like working desk jobs in the center, like they're just cool.
Right, they're not feral animals. You mean?
They're not feral. Like what's going on there?
Well, they had some that were feral and some that were not, right? Like, wasn't there, like, the one that went after F? Was
yeah,
like
but that was like a dog. Like that was that was a trained attack dog, basically. Like he had a muzzle on, and then they let him off to go because he was like getting the scent of F, basically.
Oh, okay.
Like that was like a police dog.
Okay.
Like it all seems very orderly given what we've seen from the Strigoi to this point.
Right, that they're usually zombie-like.
Because it was like when Eichhorst, like one of the cool scenes from last season was when Eichhorst and Kelly tried to launch and successfully did launch a terrorist attack on the Central Command in New York.
Oh yeah.
But it's like they had so much trouble getting the Strigoi to behave. Like just getting them to like act human for a bit and like line up and do what they wanted. Like the Strigoi were very difficult to like manage, right. And maybe that's because the master at the time I think was incapacitated or something, and maybe it's the master. It's like it just seems weird, like to go without any story explanation, no exposition whatsoever. To go from the Strigoi being feral and dangerous to the Strigoi working as cashiers. I mean, literally, they were behind the counter at the health center place.
Yeah.
Like, that stuff is very strange to me. Like, I don't know how you could do that without explaining it.
Well, let's just hold on, Kyle.
Yeah, okay.
How many things has this show done without explaining it?
No, everything. Everything.
We can list them and it would take us over an hour. But no, that is a remarkable. I didn't even think about that there were some that were walking around like Eichhorst kind of like they looked more human too, like their faces weren't like sunken in and all that. Like, are they all doing makeup or?
Yeah, and as late as the previous episode, they were all feral. Like, if you saw them, they attacked you.
Right.
And now it's like they are wearing, like, security guard uniforms, walking around, like, holding guns.
Yeah.
Like military police. Like,
they're acting like Quinlan.
Yeah, right. They're all Quinlan. It's like that was the whole thing about Quinlan is like he has capacity. I guess the Strigoi don't have capacity to think. They just sort of are mindless drones, but they certainly aren't feral anymore. It's just weird. It's just all very like that's part of why this didn't connect for me is I guess for me like a lot of the joy in world building is seeing changes like that play out gradually, and to just start a new season and have the primary like villainous force be something utterly different than what it was previously is really odd.
Yeah.
And I just didn't get it.
And it was the first time that we ever saw the Master in what's that character? The 90 Palmer's body.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, now I'm starting to connect the pieces because when I saw Palmer, I thought his makeup was really cool. I was like, oh, he's very Nosferatu looking. Like this is my jam. Like this is what I live for. It's not like the stupid Boulevard one.
Oh yeah, no, like Rockstar Master.
Yeah, Marilyn Manson Master.
He's much more traditional Dracula now.
Yeah, which I really liked. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, that's a good look.
But I also did. Now that you say it, like I didn't realize like all these pieces together. There is sort of like a jarring.
Yeah, it's just weird. It's just weird.
It's incongruous.
I see. I guess you knew it was heading this direction. Like you were expecting this like world to exist. I didn't know it was heading. I didn't know that this is where we were headed. I didn't realize it was going to be like. I knew that we were headed towards a situation where the Strigoi had control of power and were subjugating the humans. I didn't realize that they would also have like a marketing campaign. Like that was the part that like what is like who's running the cameras on the Strigoi like commercials? Like that's the kind of stuff that I think about that like I feel like a show that took more care in world building would show us.
Right.
Like if this season opened with a scene of that promotional ad being shot and it was like Strigoi behind the cameras and the news lady is being held captive, like that to me would tell me more about this world than anything in this hour of television did.
Right.
Like that I would like have a better understanding of the relationship currently between the two races. Mm-hmm. And it's just all very like cheap to me. It's like, okay, well this is our world now because this is the world in season 3. Let's get going. Like that whole transition felt cheap to me.
Yeah, I agree. I also thought that I don't know how you feel about this, but I also thought like the script of the promotional video was super weird. Like,
yeah.
Like they were like, I'm B negative, so I have to donate my whole body. Like they didn't explain what that meant, and it's sort of like
no, I didn't understand that at all. But it's also like maybe that's how the master writes ad copy, right? Because who wrote that commercial?
Right, it would be the master.
It's either the master or Eichhorst. Those are the only two Strigoi we know.
Right.
Was it Zach? Like there's the enemy team is so poorly fleshed out. It's like literally the master, Eichhorst, and Zach. Like that's it for our villains on this show.
That's amazing.
That's incredible that in season 4 there are no other Strigoi with any kind of agency or personality or characters.
No, that's amazing.
That is incredible. Like, literally incredible that we could be at this point in the show, and the enemy team, we know 3 people. Like, it's mind-blowing that is the case.
Yeah.
How can that even happen? Like, how could they have done as many episodes as they've done and not created more, like, sub-villains? Right? Like, it's I can't even believe it.
Well, I think they tried to write sub-villains last season, and they made terrible choices.
Well, yeah, maybe they just do such a bad job that... And it's like, yeah, I mean, that and ultimately what that results in is just a lot of screen time for Zach. Because, like, anytime we want to see our villains, it's always the 3 of them in the same room. So
it all comes back to Zach.
Oh, my gosh. I can't... the fact that he is still a character on this show... drives me insane.
Oh, get ready! I guarantee.
No, I know. No. I know. This is the Zach. Look, this is the Zach-pocalypse.
No, and I guarantee you though what you said earlier, like, oh, he's the main character of the show. I guarantee you that he actually is the main character of the show.
That's the most depressing thing you've ever said to me. I've gotta stand up and then sit down again to recover from that punch to the gut. That my I was intending to be hyperbolic. And you have just informed me that no, my hyperbole about how bad the strain is actually accurate to what the strain is.
No, it is. That's the thing. It's like, and I'm not saying that as a book reader. I'm just saying that, like, after we've talked about this, and yes, he is one of 3 villains, and he's the only one with a sympathetic face. Like,
yeah. Well, not anymore. Now he's teenage angst. That was all Zach needed. Teenage angst. Let's just pour that into the soup. Quick question, hypothesis about this girl that he's meeting. Like, yeah.
What is the purpose? Is the purpose to make him fall in love and be cruel? Is the purpose to make him fall in love?
Please no. Please no. If this is a Joffrey situation.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, this is something that I have no idea how to anticipate. Like, is she a gift for him? Are they going to turn her into a vampire to show him that he's got to stay in line? Like, what? Okay. Like, what is this poor girl only has something bad happen to her, no matter what. Like, there's nothing good for her fate.
Here's what I'll say. I will tell you what our purpose is, or would be, if the show was run by competent people. It would be that she is someone, as we find out over the course of the season, that has been employed by either Quinlan, Fett, or F to infiltrate the organization and is a double agent sent to recruit him back. That would be the interesting character for her. That would be like a fascinating version of this story. Is what we thought was happening with Palmer's love interest, Coco. Is what we thought was right. This story from the get-go has been ripe for a double agent story where someone is actually employing long-term and recruits a double agent to go undercover. Like this like the way that the strain sets itself up, it is begging for that kind of story. And every time we think it's coming, the strain does the least interesting thing possible. And so, I mean, you're right. Like, she probably exists to have something bad happen to her. Mm-hmm. I mean, it would be
all
nice.
Women in this show.
Yes, right. It would be nice to think that she exists to pull Zach back to humanity. That Zach sees her in danger and rescues her and goes on the run with her and to get away from all of this. Like that would be a kind of positive arc for his character, but that is not what's going to happen. She's going to be brutally maimed and he's going to like it or something, and it'll be like, oh, look how bad Zack is. Guys, we already know Zack is bad and the whole audience hates him. You don't need to do more Zack is bad stories. We all hate him. He doesn't need to kill majestic beasts.
Right.
We already know he's bad. I don't need to be sold on the idea that Zack doesn't have a soul. He's been on my screen for 3 seasons. Yeah.
He blew up New York.
He blew up New York. He purposefully killed millions of people.
Right. Like
that ship has sailed. Like it's done. And like the idea that like, I understand, like, father-son love is an unbreakable bond. The idea that F is, like, still, like, out to search for him and that the Master is holding Zack to, like, keep F in check is the most, like, what, like, okay, this is the question I was going to get earlier before we got sidetracked for 25 minutes. Why does Zack matter at all?
Right,
like
they were
why can't, yeah.
Yeah, they were saying, I mean, that's something that the Master said to Icarus. I need him so that they'll come for him. But why would they come? Like, this is a real question. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I don't have a kid. I don't know the parental love thing.
Sure.
But if your kid killed millions of people,
right?
Would you go for them? You know,
yeah.
Like all of those. Like, if I were Fett, I wouldn't. Fett's favorite thing in the whole world is New York City. I wouldn't go find this bratty child. Like,
yeah. Here's my thing. If they just killed Zack now, what's F gonna do? What's Fett, like, honestly, like, what action is the Master fearing that he won't just kill Zack now and not deal with any of his nonsense? Because I don't, like, the idea of him using him as bait to draw them in, that, like, why do you need to draw them in? What special power do they have?
They have the book, don't they? They still have the Oxyno-Lumen.
Do they have the book? Yeah. Okay, like I guess they're trying to draw him in with the book, even though the Master had the book in that. Like I guess that's it. Like they have the Lumen. I don't know, man. It just doesn't seem like Zack is the bargaining chip. Like I don't know why Zack needs to be the bargaining chip.
It's just It's poorly executed. That's what it is. I mean, so I think that there was enough context clues that I feel fine saying that the Master has had we know this in show lore, that the Master has had a penchant for raising young men and then taking their bodies. Like, yeah. That's a thing he does.
No, I understand that.
And I know that Icarus was like, well, you shouldn't have this body. But so, like, if the Master has, like, even if it's not really to drag, I mean, he said it was, but even if it's not really to drag, like, F and Fett and everybody back to try to find and save Zack, I think if nothing else, like, there's a big, like, hardy har to your enemy if you take the body of their child.
It's so petty. It's like F is really like his enemy now. Like this is, I guess all of this. My ultimate problem with all of this is that it makes the Master seem so small.
Right, because
it makes him seem so small. Like the fact that he is having conversations about Zack and like his development with Icarus is so small for this entity. Like this being of legend, like the idea that he's like giving Zack a nice room and catering to him, and like it just all seems petty. Like he hired a maid for him. Like it just seems like it's like, why is the Master doing this? Like what? Like he's the way I want to think about the Master is as this like crazy vampire who rips people in half, and I don't get why he can't just go find F and go rip him in half. Like, I don't get why he has to play the long chess game with F. Like, these two are not on equal footing.
Right.
One of them is like an ancient godlike being, and the other one is a dopey scientist.
Right.
Like, why are they like
a dopey scientist
horse trading?
Yeah, who's an alcoholic. So
who's
he's incapacitated a lot of the time.
And he's by himself. He has no plan, like no real plan. Like I just like if it was with Quinlan, I would understand it a little more because Quinlan is kind of a similar kind of being. But it just seems so petty for the Master to be like raising Zack. And it's like, oh well, he wants to raise him to take his body. Okay, but the Master could have like a kennel of children, right? Like he controls an entire region at minimum of the United States. If he wants to recruit like an ideal candidate to be his next body, I guarantee it's not Zack. Oh. I guarantee he could find some, like, high school weightlifter who's evil and take his body right away.
The Strain fanfic would just be, like, a bunch of teenage boys being locked in a hotel where they're all, like, being herded like cattle. They've got, like, nice food and nice beds and they work out and all that stuff. But, like, just... like, and then eventually they all have to, like, duke it out, and whichever one is the last one standing. That would be great. That's a great storyline.
Yeah, it'd be like, that show, the 3% on Netflix. Yeah, right? Like a sort of, I mean, Hunger Games style idea of children fighting to be the champion, except in this case, the champion would be rewarded with becoming the next master. Like, that's a cool idea for a season. I'd be on board for that season, definitely.
You know who would die immediately in that Hunger Games scenario?
Zack doesn't make it past round freaking 1.
Yeah, that's how we lose Zack, and we can all R.I.P. and like, say goodbye and light a candle and then move on to the rest of our kid.
But instead, we're getting so much Zack. It's just so much Zack, and it shouldn't, as we always say, it shouldn't be taken out on the actor. But it's just a lot of Zack.
No, and
it's a lot of Zack the character.
Yeah, Max Charles, the actor who plays Zack for the 3 final seasons of the show, we are very, very adamant on this podcast.
Yeah.
Don't hate on him. It's not his fault. Don't write nasty things about him on Twitter. He's a child. He's still a child. He may have a little bit of more of a man's body now, but he's still a child.
Yeah, still a child. Still doing his best. The performance is not the main problem with Zack.
No, and the performance makes sense with the material he's given.
Right. I mean, he's probably playing the character as instructed.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
Yeah.
Be nice to Max Charles, everybody on Twitter.
Yeah. But I mean, that's my problem. It's like, it's a lot of Zack. It's a lot of, as the Strain tends to do, ruining the villain. It's a lot of making the villain seem not at all scary or sinister. It's a lot of making Icarus seem very petty and like cast in this side role, even though he's one of the only 3 bad characters on the show right now. And there's no, like, this episode had no action to balance that out. Like, there was no like big business at hand to really do. It felt like a lot like a Walking Dead episode, to be honestly.
Yeah.
Where like the Fett story was very Walking Dead, where he's sort of on a mission, and by the end of the episode, that mission like takes a turn, and we're now on to the next stage of the mission. Like that felt like a very Walking Dead thing to do. And I'm just not. I mean, if that's the most interesting part of the show, I'm still not all that interested in any of it. So it just didn't work for me, I guess, ultimately.
Yeah, and I think that's fair, and I think, I'm mostly in the same camp as you. I just am always, because it's a book series that's so close to me, I'm always willing to give a little bit more. And, seeing little moments of things that I really like from the books being represented in the show makes me happy, because it's like, oh, that is, it's interesting. It was so well written that that's visually what I kind of expected it to look like anyway. So, like, it's always nice to have that moment, but for the most part,
sure.
I agree, like, now that you mention it, like, especially the fact that the Strigoi are suddenly very competent, like...
Yeah, that threw me for a loop.
Yeah, well, and specifically in the show portrayal, and again, that might just be, like, my brain crossing the wires, because in the books, earlier in the book series, you've read the first 2 books, there are a couple more competent vampires. Like,
yes.
Icorst is, like, the main one, but there are other ones who walk around like soldiers, and so, like, it makes more sense when you move into this world as a book reader to be like, oh, okay, but then if they're all running around like crazy pants, like nasty all the time, and they couldn't control them the last time we saw them, as you said, when they're doing this little infiltration, then what would lead us to believe?
Yeah.
Ugh.
I just want more of the Master's infrastructure. I want to see his organizational style. like I want to know like what this whole like what is the marketing arm of their organization look like? Like someone filmed that commercial.
Right.
Who filmed the commercial? What are the actors all about? Like what is going on like behind like that's what I want to see. Like I'm not willing to take that for granted because I feel like the interesting part of this story lies in what the Master is doing there. And the only time we saw the Master in this episode is him talking to Zack. It's like, that's the least interesting use of the Master. I want to see how he is managing this whole thing. Like, he's running at least a part of a country right now.
Yeah.
How does he do it? Like, what is he doing? Like, how did he empower the Strigoi to think for themselves? Like physically, like, how did that work? Did they all just snap to attention one day? Like, how did they get uniforms?
Where's his
like,
president's speech on the,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, what did he announce himself? Like, do people know about the Master other than, like, our main cast? Like, do the citizens of New York know of the Master? Like, did they treat him as the president? Like, what is, how did people start being herded? Like, at what point did the Strigoi stop killing people and start herding them? Mm-hmm. Like, all of those are, like, vital questions as far as I'm concerned, and none of that is even remotely addressed.
Here's hoping for a flashback episode.
Yeah, great. Flashback to the stuff that should have been this episode.
Right? Because wasn't it like last season they opened up with a recap of things that we would have missed in the timeline, and this one they just like cold open.
No, they've given up. Like, the fact that this is running against Game of Thrones and that they didn't even bother to do it used to be Satrakian. I don't know who would do it now, but it's like to even do like the while you were gone, here's what happened in the world. Like, they didn't even bother, even though this is the most world-focused season yet. They didn't even bother. Like, they are on autopilot to the finish this season.
They just want to get it done because
they just want it to be over with. Yeah, like I was hoping that, like, an end date would revitalize the strain. I feel like this episode to me felt like playing out the string.
Yeah.
Like, this episode felt like the bare minimum you had to do to set up a story.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like they had any ideas. It didn't feel like they had any, like, spark of inspiration. They never took any... There's not a single risk taken in this episode of any, like, remote riskiness. Like, there is not a single thing they did that could be classified as daring in this episode. Like, that's what gets me, is like, it's so like like, if this is the story you want to tell, this is the most boring way to tell that story.
Yeah, I'm there with you.
No, I'm already worked up. It's only the first. I gotta pace myself better.
Yeah,
this wasn't even like a horrible episode. It was just boring.
It was, yeah, they just. No, but you're right. They're just slowly trudging towards the finish line.
Yeah, they're trudging towards it.
I mean, it is literally. I mean, literally everybody had a contract that they had to fulfill, right? So
yeah,
either
right, like that is...
right. You could have ended it last season. The ratings weren't great, and you could have just cut ties, but you still had to pay all of those people. So if you're gonna pay them, you might as well make it.
Might as well. Yeah, and you could go like, if you have that situation, you could get really weird and experimental, which is always the direction I've wanted the show to go. Like, do weird stuff.
Pull a Hannibal.
Yeah, right. Yeah, just change the format of your show. Change, like, the normal... But no, it's the strain. It is following the books. It is just going to do that slow march towards ending and being forgotten by everyone who watched it 10 months after it ends.
Lightly following the books. It's not fully following the books.
Well, but I mean, like, the big picture plot points. Like,
definitely.
Clearly, like, they said, oh, well, this is book 3. We have to get here. So let's start here and go. Like, there was no thought being given to, like, well, does this make sense? What's the transition? Like, none of that. It's like, oh, book 3 is this. Here we are, and we're off.
You know what happened? They didn't pay overtime to the writers. That's what happened.
Yeah, that's what happened. That's what we'll go with.
That's what we'll go with. Okay, well, we have a sort of, it's a final season announcement.
Yeah.
That I think have decided we're discontinuing the Strain Bingo, right?
Yeah,
right?
We're just, we're both busy.
Yeah.
And I can't guarantee I'm going to be around to live tweet the Strain, because it's on at the same time as Game of Thrones, and I'm going to be live tweeting Game of Thrones. Let's be honest, like, we're mailing it in too.
Yeah, no,
So...
we love you guys, and we're so happy to be back, and we are going to finish it. We're here to cross the finish line.
We're here.
But we're going to watch Game of Thrones.
We have a contract with each other to finish this season.
Yes.
But Game of Thrones is on at the time of the show. Yes. So,
but we will still post updates on Twitter.
Yes.
We will keep, the old strain bingo cards are up there. If anybody wants to, any of our followers, who we've definitely had a lot of people who love the strain bingo. If you want to take it over, let us know. We're happy to give our blessing.
If you get a bingo on one of our old cards and show it to us, we will still invite you on the podcast.
Yes, we will. Especially if it has to do with Dutch.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I'm wondering if she's just gonna shove.
You got one shot at that bingo.
Right, she's in one episode this season.
It's a short window.
Oh, but we are...
I can't believe she's in one episode. Where the hell did that character go?
I can't actually verify. I just looked at IMDb while we were talking.
I want it to be true so bad. Because it's just the funniest thing in the world that they had this giant, arc for Dutch, and it's going to end with her being in one episode of the final season. After she falls in love with the protagonist of the show.
I know.
There could not be anything more the strain than Dutch's existence.
I know. So there's this interesting thing where she's in 37 episodes total. And I know she wasn't in the first couple of episodes of the show, but she definitely was in it sooner than whatever. But then everybody else is in 44 episodes of the show, except for Corey Stoll, who's in 45 episodes of the show. Okay.
Well, but she might have missed some episodes in there are a number of Dutch-free episodes. So maybe she's in multiple.
Yeah. So I'm trying to do the math because we also didn't have our good friend Gus in this episode.
No, and that is sort of a tradition, right? Gus is never in the first episode of the season.
It's always weird because I love Gus, but
makes no sense whatsoever. But okay,
every single time, let's ignore Gus.
Let's ignore. No, we need more Zach scenes. Let's not check up on Gus.
Let's make sure we don't have the single main person of color and the single female character on screen in the first episode.
No. We're gonna introduce another woman who has 2 lines, and is probably too attractive for her role, which is traditional strain business. So we're gonna introduce her and have her just sort of look pretty and have characters comment on how pretty she is, and then we're not gonna have any other people of color or women talk. That's cool with you guys? Okay, you've been dealing with it for 4 years.
That's just how the strain operates, and we've gotten used to it.
Yeah, that's the strain. Has never... If there's one thing I could say about the strain, it is consistent in that it has never improved. It has never gotten better. Honestly, the pilot was the high point of the strain.
And, what is our favorite... Creatures
of the Night. Yes, but that was such a self-contained the show in general, the things that the show does wrong now are the exact things it did wrong in season 1. The strain has never improved in any way for any period of time, and that's an accomplishment. To be on the air for 4 seasons and not to be any better as a television show in any meaningful way, that takes work. That takes commitment to mediocrity.
Oh man, Kyle, I think that in one of our episodes we should list a bunch of shows that didn't get a 4th season that are better than this.
Oh my gosh.
That'd be a fun game.
I want to play sad piano music. It'll be like the Oscars montage of people who died during the year. It'll be shows who died before the strain died.
That were of much higher quality.
Yeah, no, we're doing that. We're doing that now.
Awesome. You get a list, I get a list, we'll come back.
Okay.
We hope you listeners enjoy that when we get to it.
Yeah.
But yes, this is going to be a fun season.
This will be a fun one for us.
We are trudging through. We're so sorry that we're not joining you all for Twitter, but we are still here in spirit and in voice. And when we are seeing it out, because yes, we made a contract with one another that we would finish this. Mm-hmm. This will be the first TV show we've ever finished in a podcast, Kyle. So
yes, we are 100% committed to finishing this podcast even if by the end just no
Right,
one's listening.
exactly.
Because it's going to get, based on this episode, I'm going to get more and more bitter that an hour of my time is taken watching this show a week. I'm just going to get more bitter.
Yes, me too. And it's going to be very fun to go through.
It will
Well, okay. This wraps up our 40th episode of the Strain podcast,
Oh my God.
Kyle.
So many.
The 40th. And we have at least, I think, 9 more to go. Or no, this is a 7-episode season, right?
Oh, it is, yeah. Oh, no.
I bet you that Ruta Gidmentas is not in this season at all.
Yeah.
Now that I know that.
That would be the best. I hope it's true.
Oh,
Give me this, the
yeah,
Strain.
right
Give
off
me
your
this.
one titular female character.
Just
like that.
write her off without explanation. The quote-unquote lead actress of the show. Just write her off the season.
Second lead actress, they would have done that too as well. Or third.
Yeah. Yes.
The kill-
Correct. It's a revolving door.
They hate women.
Oh, they really
hate
do.
women. Well, so this wraps up our 40th episode of the Strain podcast. Before we go, we want to mention a few things. You can download and subscribe to our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. You can also hear all of our podcasts at our website, southgatemediagroup.com. Please subscribe to the show and also rate us. Follow us on Twitter @TheStrainPod, and Kyle and I @KyleLovesTV and @BlairLovesTV, and remember, that's Blair with an E. Send us fan mail to thestrainpodcast@gmail.com. And if anybody wants to take over the Strain Bingo, please let us know, because we want you guys to keep having fun with it. Thanks again for tuning in, and we're gonna see you next week.